partner, but that is a mouthful. So I basically say I'm a diabetes ambassador or I'm a diabetes advocate. Any of those two things still mean the same thing. I don't need to tell you anything about that because most of your regular worshipers here, but all I beg you, please, and I say that in the 10.5 years I'm doing this, please switch off your mobile phone or put it on silencer. If I had £1 for every time a mobile phone went off, trust me, I would be a millionaire now. Okay? So make sure you do that because it just interrupts what we're trying to do. My disclaimer. I have a health disclaimer which says, I am not a healthcare professional. So you need to bear that in mind. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a nurse. I'm not a dietitian. I am a lived experience. 18 years of living with this medical condition, which I'll tell you how it came about. And why it came about. I believe it or not, you might not like the accent, but I believe it or not, was born in St. Helier Hospital in Carshalton in Surrey. That's where I was born. My parents at an early age sent me off to the land of their birth, which was? Exactly, Jamaica. So I grew up in Jamaica as a child, and growing up, very nosy, very inquisitive little boy, would ask, what's the matter with Granny? What's the matter with that uncle? What's the matter with that person? They had, starting from the top, strokes, blindness, heart attacks, kidney failure, necessitating going from the country areas into Kingston to go on the dialysis machine, lower limb amputations, and also some of my relatives died too soon, or what we call prematurely, gone too soon. I would ask age 8, 9, 10, 11, what's the matter with them? All my relatives told me as a child, and some of you elderly people might know this, may have a touch of sugar. Granny, uncle, aunt have a touch of sugar. Now you need to understand diabetes is more than a touch of sugar, okay? And I'm going to come back to that later. So, over the 18 years, having come back here, I came back to Britain in 1979. So it's 43 years since I returned to this country, and I've lived in Birmingham ever since with my wife, daughter, and son-in-law. And 18 years ago, my wife noticed the 4 T's. They are called the 4 T's, or 4 symptoms that you might have diabetes. T for tired, T for toilet, T for thirsty, and T for thinner. Tired, toilet, thirsty, thinner. I was displaying all 4 of those symptoms. And believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, I would get up 3 or 4 times during the night, 18 years ago, to go to the toilet. And my wife kept saying, something's wrong with you, something wrong with you. And I now look at the men in this room. Men are constantly in denial, burying their head in the sand like the ostrich, hoping that the problem is going to go away. At the first sign of danger, men do that. I was one of those men. So when I could take the nagging from my wife no more, and she was nagging me, I took a vial of urine to the doctor, and the doctor said, so you're Mr. Kelly. I said, what's that supposed to mean? The records show you have not been to this surgery in 8 years. And I held my head down in shame, thinking, oh my God, I'm in trouble now. But she took this vial of urine, she put the dipstick in it, and it comes out, and it said, I'm afraid I think you have diabetes. Your blood glucose or blood sugar, same thing, it is showing symptoms. But what I'm going to do for the definitive answer is send off a sample of your blood to the lab. So that will give me the definitive answer. 18 years ago, this Christmas coming 19 years, as an early Christmas present, I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. I had 2 choices. Remember, it runs in my family, so it's hereditary. I had 2 choices. Do I curl up into a ball and die, or do I make the lifestyle changes, the behavioral changes? So instead of having, I love rice and peas, you know. Instead of having 6, 7, 8 teaspoons of rice, tablespoon, beg your pardon, of rice and peas, no more than 1. Making the changes which you'll hear about. And that's why I have managed to, with other things you'll hear about, live with this medical condition. I know some people like to call it a non-communicable disease, because I'm sure there's some nurses in this room, and probably doctors, or an acute disease. When I was trained, I was told to call it a medical condition. you can't catch diabetes, although they say it's non-communicable. So I've had it for these 18 years. And then one day I used to work, I was a trained teacher in Jamaica, but over here Maggie Thatcher said you can't teach in the schools here. And I said, what? My wife went and redid the 4-year degree. The best education is the education in the Caribbean. I firmly believe in that. So I decided I'm not going to go retrain after being to MICO and having taught in the high schools in Jamaica. So I went into the probation service and became a probation officer and a senior probation officer and retired 10 years ago. But having said all of that now, my boss said to me, you have diabetes and you're not ashamed to tell people. I want you to go to Wolverhampton, which is the diabetes capital of Britain at the time, not anymore, Birmingham is, and I want you to talk. And I went there and spoke from my heart 10 years ago, and Diabetes UK were there, and they said, come over to Macedonia and help us, because you got the gift of the gab, you can chat, you will relate and resonate with black people. And you believe it or not, when I was growing up, I was a shy little boy. You wouldn't believe that now, though, because my grandmother used to say to me, you're a bright little boy, open your mouth and talk, even if a foolishness. By the way, I'm not telling you no foolishness today, okay? But I'm very jovial, and a lot of joking will come into it. So I've taken on this mantle as a patient volunteer, as a diabetes patient volunteer, as an expert. Going around, I do on average 150 community events per year, okay? So you make sure you invite me back to wherever. So I'm going to share my experience with you. I couldn't cook. When I was growing up in Jamaica, the family I grew up with, we had helper and we had maid, very probably middle class. And anytime I head to the kitchen, they say, go away. Gal, picnic must in the kitchen. Boys mustn't be in the kitchen. So I've never learned to cook. So even when I finished university and college and all the places I've been to, never cooked. Couldn't even boil an egg, I'm ashamed to say. In 2000, and whoops, I went too fast. In 2009, my daughter said, you're the only man in this house, and we have to come home and cook and this, that, and the other. So she gave me a Christmas present of Caribbean cookery classes. All the way from where we live, I had to go to Sutton Coldfield, Boldmere, to learn to cook Caribbean food. Ask yourself the question, who is the best cook in the Kelly household now? Exactly. Latent skills coming out. So I can cook. And I'm saying, especially to many in this room, the junk food, the fast food, the takeaway, go home and learn to cook. And even the women in here who probably think, oh, 3-4 times a week I'm going to get this, that, the other. Start cooking your own food so you know what you are putting in it. Okay? Are you with me on that? Right. So there's no age limit. You're never too old to learn. So if I've learned, so can you. So that's me having learned to cook. And as I say, I'm one of the best cooks now. Now, remember this Second World War was 1939 to 1945. The National Health Service was formed in 1948. Remember that. And Winston Churchill sent people to all the Caribbean islands and to Africa and Asia and said, come and help to build up Britain. Britain needs to be built up. So the National Health Service was formed in 1948. In the middle is my aunt, who came from Bath, St. Thomas, Jamaica, in 1952. Some of you weren't even born then, to train as a nurse in the National Health Service. The following year on the left came my mother in 1953 to train as a nurse in the National Health Service, followed by a sister in 1956. So I refer to them as the 3 degrees, okay? So when I see pictures of the National Health Service, which basically blots out black people as if we didn't exist, and the National Health Service was formed by white people, I take great exception to it. So I put them in there. I am proud of what they've done for their queen and country and whoever else. And you have other relatives who have done the same. So big them up. Go find photos and put them out there. People say, Tony, why do they have to be in there? I say, yes, those are my pride and joy, my mother and her 2 sisters. Okay? So, You will hear the term hard to reach communities a lot. Just look it up online, hard to reach communities. And I go to a lot of events, and these august professionals and doctors and correspondents and whoever else, consultants and so on, get up and they do their big speeches and say hard. And I say, excuse me, who are these hard to reach communities? Listen to them. The Africans, the Caribbeans, the Asians, and white working class. If you hear anybody talk about hard to reach communities as of now, ask them, are they in the jungle, in the rainforest, in the Blue Mountains, in the Himalayas, on another body, Jupiter or Mars? No person on the face of the earth is hard to reach. If Muhammad can't go to the mountain must go where? To Muhammad. And if I can go and knock on good warriors, which I do, temples, Sikh, synagogues, you name it, churches. And some people say, well, are you medically qualified? And I say, no. Well, please go away. We don't want you. But once they hear me, they say, oh, my God, you have to come back because you just keep it real. And I do keep it very real. And I hope I'm doing that today with you. Okay? So don't have the hard to reach communities thing at all. Don't subscribe to it. It's a misnomer and it's a myth. Say instead things like historically excluded, historically neglected, historically ignored, or say marginalized or underserved. Marginalized or underserved are far better ways to describe us as black people, but talk about hard to reach. I'm not accepting that. So when I hear it, I cringe, and I do tell them off. And then they say, well, are you medically qualified? It's a medical qualification to come into it. Me as a black person, I'm not hard to reach. You as black people are not hard to reach. So don't be patronizing and condescending. It can be actually deemed to be racist, referring to us as hard to reach. Are you with me? Yes. Right. Look, this place is half filled with people. You weren't hard to reach to come here, were you? So that's the point. I don't go to hospitals, health clinics, medical centers. The people in hospitals, health clinics, medical centers, or at the GP, are already there for a reason. So I go to the pub, I go to the hairdressers, I go to the barbers. This is like Jesus. When Jesus was on earth, him never walked in the churches and so on. Him go on the beach and him go where the fishers are and him go in the agora and the marketplace. That is where I go to reach out to people, these so-called hard to reach people. So if I can do it, so can other people, okay? So I don't go to health clinics and health centers. These are the facts. Those are the top 10 countries. Look at them very carefully where diabetes is rampant. The top 10 countries. Have a quick look at them, and I'll tell you, in the top 10, there are 5 Asian countries. China, India, Pakistan, Indonesia, and Bangladesh. All are in the top 10 countries where diabetes is rampant. Then some people in the 10 and a half years I'm doing this say to me, Tony, I've never seen a fat Chinese man or fat Chinese woman. If you have the notion inside of here that it's only people who are fat, overweight, or obese who can develop diabetes, I want you to throw that concept away and get rid of it. People who are, and I'm going to right raw patwa, MAGA, can also develop type 2 diabetes. Are you with me? And you'll soon see a slide which proves that that is so. Okay? So, those are the top 10. Moving swiftly on. That just shows you all the ethnic groups. Whether Asian, African, Caribbean, all ethnic groups can succumb to diabetes. Look at it worldwide. Last year was 2021. It was estimated that 537 million people had diabetes. That's last year. These are not my figures. These are taken from the International Diabetes Federation website. However, by 2030, that figure, and 2030 ain't that far away because we know 2022, that figure is going to go up to 643 million, and by 2045, 783 million people. Now, some people said to me, Tony, that is far away. Think back to the millennium when we were heading into 1998, 99, 2000. What year are we in now, people? Come on. 2022 years into the new millennium, so it ain't that far away. Time does fly. We're going to come to the United Kingdom where we're all based and talk about why diabetes is big here. There are 5 million people in the United Kingdom who actually have diabetes as we speak. There's type 1 and type 2. I'll explain the difference between the two in a moment. However, at the bottom, there are around 1 million people, and I would hazard a guess in this room as well, who have type 2 diabetes and don't even know that they have it because they have not been to get their bloods done or get their urine sample done, and they're walking around like a ticking time bomb with this. And I'm saying to you, the same way you take your car, most of you drive a motor vehicle, to get it MOT tested once a year, and remember, that is a piece of junk or a piece of metal. Your body, given to you by Jah, Jehovah, Allah, whoever you worship, your body is more important to you than that piece of car, piece of junk that you're driving. So I'm saying to you, and especially to the men, you must go once a year and get your checkups done, a proper MOT at your doctor's. Are you with me on that? Want it, can't get it, and get it, no want it. I am saying to you loud and clear, start. Remember I said I was one of those men for 8 years. I had not been into a GP surgery. Now, the moment me have one little ache or pain, who is first in the queue? Then tired of see me. Tired of see me face like what Bob Marley would say, okay? So I'm saying to you, get your men folk who would rather ostrich, bury head in the sand, no one to engage or so on, drag them. And if people say they need to clone Tony Kelly and have a lot of me running around, forget these men folk who don't like to talk about their health. I sometimes do men-only groups, talk about other things like prostate cancer, because men are too macho, too manly, want to suffer in silence. I'm not into that at all. So it's more than doubled, moving swiftly on, from what it was in 1998 to 2018, 3.8, and now with 2022, it's 5 million. It just keeps creeping up and up and up and up. 90% of people have type 2, and I'm going to explain the difference between type 1 and type 2. 90% of people have type 2 diabetes. Only 8% of people have type 1. Then, to bring it to 100%, there's 2% who have rarer types of diabetes, which I can't talk about because I'm not medically qualified to talk about those. I am going to focus on the 90% of people who have type 2. Okay? Moving on. You can't see that, but that is showing some wards in the Birmingham area where diabetes is rampant. I know it off by heart. Handsworth, Lascelles, Aston, Nietzsche's, Sparkbrook, Sparkhill, Small Heath. Who lives in those areas? People looking like us, exactly. So those are, I don't like the word deprived areas, but those are the areas, some people call them inner city areas, but those are the areas where diabetes is prevalent. And I'm going to explain to you why. When you're going to Handsworth, just like when you're going to Brixton, when you're going to areas of Tottenham, when you're going to areas of Croydon, takeaway, Chinese. The next shop is a fast food, it's fish and chips. Then the next one is kebab. And then you pass down 2 more shops, and then the next shop is another. There are far too many fast food. Then don't mention the McDonald's and the KFC. I know I'm touching a nerve here when I'm talking about this, but I'm keeping it real here. There are far too many fast food outlets on the high street, convenience, fast or junk food, that we gravitate towards, and they're full of sugar and salt and the oils, the saturated oils. I am going back to saying we need to go home. And if you're a busy person, a mother or father, and you have to cook enough variation on Saturday and Sunday, put it in the fridge, the freezer, so that you have for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 3 different meals that you can prepare, that you can easily take out and use for the rest of the week. Instead of saying, oh, let's go down to the chippy, let's go to the Chinese shop, let's go to the kebab or so on. You have got to cut down on the fish and chips and all of this fast food. It's doing your body no good, okay? I know it's hard for some people, but you have to start somewhere. I started somewhere, okay, and so can you. This is why diabetes is serious. It affects every part of the body. Notice it doesn't say every fortnight or every 3 months. It says every week in Britain, diabetes leads to 500 premature deaths. What I said earlier, gone too soon. Every single week in this country, 500 people die from diabetes. 176 that figure's gone up, that's old. Lower limb amputations. This is the cutting off of toes and feet from diabetes-related complications, ulcers and sore foot, because people are not taking care, foot care. They're not taking care of their feet, and then it ends up being chopped off, okay? Every week, there are 680 strokes in this country from the one condition, diabetes, and 550 heart attacks, and almost 2,000 cases of heart failure. All of this, I haven't put it up there. This is from the proper websites. Diabetes is also the leading cause of preventable sight loss in the United Kingdom. And I'm going to talk about that and why. Because people in their 60s, 70s, 80s start to have blurred vision, or can't see the small print on what they're reading, or can't see what the image is on the television, and they think it's to do with old age. Come on, in your 50s and 60s? I don't think so, not even in your 70s. What it is, you have diabetes, you don't know you have it, it is causing the nerves and the blood vessels at the back of your eyes. It's called diabetic retinopathy. But for simpler words, it's diabetes screening, eye screening, not ice cream, eye screening. It is important. I go once a year. I don't wear glasses. I have perfect vision. I go once a year into the high street where I live, and they put the eye drops in. They say, make sure you don't drive to the appointment. And they take the camera, and they take lots of pictures, and they send them off to a lab, and it comes back, Mr. Kelly, you're good to go. Your sight is okay. There's nothing forming at the back of your eyes. I am telling you loud and clear, if you notice your vision starting to blur and you're not seeing things properly, you must go to the optician, not the doctor, to the optician and get your eyes checked. And so many people over the last 10 and a half years said to me, Tony, you know it's not my doctor who diagnosed my diabetes. I went to the optician, and the optician said, I don't like what I see forming at the back of your eyes. I think you better go and get a blood test done at your GP surgery. And that's how they get to find out. So opticians are very important in this grand scheme of things. Then at the bottom it says, someone is diagnosed with diabetes. Look for that. Every 2 minutes in the United Kingdom, somebody gets a diagnosis of diabetes. That's a whole heap of people. And it's rising, rising, rising. I see a lot of nodding of heads, which means that you're in agreement with me, which is good to know. Now, this is why it's expensive. Some of you might have won the lottery and kept it from your pastor and not giving your tithes properly. No, that not say 10 million, you know. That say every year 10 billion pounds is spent on this one medical condition. There are some countries in the world that do not have that amount of money as their gross domestic product. And we in Britain are spending 10 billion pounds on diabetes alone, which amounts to 1/10 of the whole of the NHS budget. Those figures are alarming, and that shows you the severity, the seriousness of this whole situation. Are you with me? Are you with me? Come on, it's interactive. Now, whoops, sorry, I'm putting it in the wrong place. Have I gone 1 too many? Let me just go back. This is me catching my breath while my colleague up there, they've been fantastic up there, the IT team. They're going to play a 2-minute video for you to listen to.
There are 2 main types of diabetes, type 1 and type 2. They're different conditions, but they're both serious. There are some other rarer types of diabetes too. What all types of diabetes have in common is that they cause people to have too much glucose in their blood. But we all need some glucose. It's what gives us our energy. We get glucose when our bodies break down the carbohydrates that we eat or drink, and that glucose is released into our blood. We also need a hormone called insulin. It's made by our pancreas, and it's insulin that allows the glucose in our blood to enter our cells and fuel our bodies. If you don't have diabetes, your pancreas senses when glucose has entered your bloodstream and releases the right amount of insulin so the glucose can get into your cells. But if you have diabetes, this system doesn't work. When you've got type 1 diabetes, you can't make any insulin at all. If you've got type 2 diabetes, it's a bit different. The insulin you make either can't work effectively or you can't produce enough of it. In both types of diabetes, because glucose can't get into your cells, it begins to build up in your blood. And too much glucose in your blood causes a lot of different problems. To begin with, it leads to diabetes symptoms like having to wee a lot, being incredibly thirsty and feeling very tired. You may also lose weight, get infections like thrush, or suffer from slow healing wounds. Over a long period of time, high glucose levels in your blood can seriously damage your heart, your eyes, your feet, and your kidneys. These are known as the complications of diabetes. But with the right treatment and care, people can live a healthy life. And there's much less risk that someone will experience these complications. If you've got diabetes, you can find lots of information and support about living with it using our website and helpline. As well as campaigning for everyone with diabetes to get the right care, Diabetes UK fund research into all types of diabetes so we can develop new treatments and one day find a cure. You can find out more about...
Right, so first of all, you need to understand there is no known cure for this medical condition. So I don't want you to be sending off money to quack, fake, false, or phony websites, and then they're going to send you things. How you know what they're putting in it? It might be horse manure, it might be cow dung, it might be grass. Please do not do that. You should be going to the Diabetes UK website for factual, important information, or whatever area you live in, the NHS websites. Now, some goodie bags are going to start coming out now, some little prizes. Who can tell me who does the voiceover in that ad you've just seen? Philip Schofield. Philip Schofield is a silver-haired guy on ITV along with Holly Willoughby. He has type 1 diabetes. I'm going to name you 3 other people who have type 1 diabetes. Our previous Prime Minister, Theresa May, has type 1 diabetes. That's 2. Some of you might remember the Olympics. There was a guy who was a rower named Sir Stephen Redgrave. He won 5 Olympic gold medals on the trot. He has type 1 diabetes. I'm going to mention one other more person to you. Halle Berry, the well-known black American actress, has type 1 diabetes. First of all, what you just watched, it is on the Diabetes UK website. Just go into the website, what is diabetes? You can watch that, show your relatives, your friends, your neighbors. That clearly explains it. But I'm going to break it down for you. We have a 6-inch gland situated by the belly button, 6 inches in length. It's called the pancreas. It makes the hormone insulin. Without insulin, you will die. That's a fact. Without insulin. You need insulin to regulate the blood glucose or blood sugar from the food you eat and the stuff you drink. 100 years ago, the 14th of November last year, 100 years ago, in his lab in Canada, Sir Frederick Banting, remember this for when you go on Mastermind or Egghead. Sir Frederick Banting saw a marga dog outside. And he and his French student, the French student was called Charles Best. They made up this concoction. This is a true story. They made up this concoction, just like how Alexander Fleming discovered penicillin. Sir Frederick Banting, a medical doctor in Canada, I've been to his place 3 years ago. They decided, okay, let's try this. They injected the dog and noticed the dog was making a remarkable recovery, putting back weight on. That was how insulin was discovered. Of course, it's been made better since then. So everybody with type 1, and remember it's only 8% of people have type 1. Nothing to do with lifestyle, nothing to do with diet. The pancreas packs in all together, just doesn't work. It can happen from age 5, age 6, in their 20s, in their teens, or in their 30s. It doesn't work, the pancreas. So they have to inject insulin into their stomach area 3 or 4 times a day to keep themselves alive. And you remember when we were going through Brexit and so on? Over 60% of the insulin that Britain uses comes from abroad. Put that in your pipe and smoke it, okay? So here we are. Everybody with type 1 has to have insulin. Only 8% of people do. 90% of people have type 2. But some of them with type 2, the condition deteriorates that they have to take metformin tablets, or some of them have to actually go on insulin or other types of tablets. Now, I'm one of the lucky ones where because of my diet and physical activity, I haven't reached the stage of being on any medication at all. And long may that be the case, so help my God. But some people have to be on medication, insulin, and that's the difference. But let me also then mention, I mentioned the 4 people who have type 1. I'm focusing, though, on type 2. So moving on. Age is a factor. These are the risk factors. The older you get, the chances are you can develop diabetes, okay? Family history, hereditary, it runs in the family. Ethnicity, if you are an African, Caribbean, or Asian background, you are more likely to develop diabetes than white people. That's a fact. I'm not making that up. Weight, if you're carrying too much weight around these parts, and you're too heavy around here, waist circumference, that is another factor. You've got to try and lose some of the tummy weight around here. And some of the issues that come, some men, because they have too much blood glucose or blood sugar, same thing, they are unable to make love to their partner. They cannot have an erection. There's too much blood sugar, which is preventing the penis from being erect, okay? That's one of the downfalls. And as I said earlier, heart attacks, strokes, high blood pressure, which associate with a lot of black people. And of course, high cholesterol. You've got to do something and go for your medical checkups yearly. Who knows what is gestational diabetes? When you're pregnant. Men can't be pregnant, but women who are pregnant, it's not type 1, it's not type 2, it is actually called gestational diabetes for a reason. Because the mother who gets it has it only during the pregnancy. So from she start pregnant until she gives the birth to the baby or babies, it disappears. But what it is saying to her, she is at future risk of developing type 2 diabetes, as are her children who she's had. That's gestational diabetes, different from type 1 or type 2. Now, let me see if any bright spark is in here. Who knows, a different one? Who knows what is impaired glucose regulation? Doctors like to use it a lot, and I tell them, speak the language of the people. What did Dickens here talk about impaired glucose regulation? Yeah, you said borderline. You are right, actually. Yes. Impaired glucose regulation means, in simple terms, if you go to the doctor and they tell you you are borderline or you're pre-diabetes, that's what that means. And so many people come up to me afterwards and say, Tony, Mr. Kelly, you know my doctor, they tell me I'm borderline or pre-diabetes. And then I look at them and I say, and what have you done about it? I not do nothing, sir. I feel like slap them. Because if you're told you're pre-diabetic or borderline, for Christ's sake, make the lifestyle changes and do something about it so you don't end up getting the diabetes. Because once you get it, try and get rid of it. There are a few people who have been able to reverse or it goes into remission because they eat so well and they do all the right things, but not many people are able to reverse it or it go into remission. So if you're pre-diabetes or borderline, and also if you have not been to get your health checkups yearly, start going, because black people are more susceptible and more prone to getting it than any other, and Asian people as well, okay? This one is a different type of diabetes. There are some people, for whatever medical conditions, nothing to do with diabetes, they have been put on steroids. If you stay on steroids, not everybody, for a very, very long time, it can impact and affect the pancreas, and you end up with steroid-induced diabetes. And I know of 3 people who have had to be on steroids, and now they're diabetic because of the steroids that they were on. It impacts and affects the pancreas. So you need to be mindful of that. Remember, I'm not medically qualified. You can't be on steroids and the next minute you'll suddenly take yourself off it, because Tony Kelly say. No. You go and get a checkup from your GP. I am just a private person, patient, I'm telling you these things, okay? Whoops, I'm sorry, not doing the right thing. What's happened? Right. Here's the ethnicity side. People from African, Caribbean, and South Asian backgrounds are 2 to 4 times more likely to develop type 2 diabetes than white people. That's a fact. I didn't make that up. Notice what age they get it from? Age 25. White people start getting diabetes from round about age 40, 15 years later than we do. And people say to me, Tony, why is that so? It's to do with our genetics, or DNA, or metabolism, any of those words. Also, environmental factors, overcrowding, stress, and black people, we do go under a lot of stress at times. Racism, poor diet, and couch potato, sedentary, sit on our proverbial. I'm in the church, so I can't swear. But sitting on our proverbial for most of the day and not getting any physical activity. Those are issues which, even if you're elderly, you have to do some form of physical activity to keep the blood glucose or the blood sugar circulating and get rid of it. I beg you, start. And I'm going to come on to, you'll see me do some in a bit, which you will then be able to take away from here, okay? The body mass index is your height and your weight and all that sort of thing. But this is the one I'm going to concentrate on. You notice me with this. You might think, well, he's going to be a tailor and he's going to start measuring up through your suit or your skirt or so on. Now, from your belly button or navel string, all women, some of you might remember the Miss World competition where the perfect figure walking down the catwalk was 36, 24-inch hip at waist, and 30. Show me a woman with a 24-inch waist, and I give you a tenner. None of them exist. However, I accept that some women have had children, or they're bigger in size and so on, and just born bigger. All women, and make a note because I'm going to ask you later again to see how much you remember. All women must aim for, from the belly button, 31.5 inches. However, let's say your waist size from the belly button is 38. May I beg you bring it down from 38 to about 36 or 34. Because where did I say the pancreas is? And you have all of this fat around here, so preventing the type 2 diabetes. Because of all little fat around here, so it is preventing the pancreas from doing what it should be doing naturally. Get rid of the fat that's around here. I beg you, go for walks, do this, that, and the other. That's all women. Asian men are allowed, and these are all on the Diabetes UK website, Asian men are allowed 35 inches. So if you have any Asian friends, and they say the belly out here, and they may look upon them belly, say, no. It can't be out there, so you have to bring it down. You might be 40, may I beg you bring it down to 38 or 36. It will make the world a difference if you do, as an Asian person. So all Asian men must aim for 35. African, Caribbean men and white men, we are allowed, and this is all on the website, 37 inches. So we can bring it 37. Anything after that, you're exposing yourself to risk, okay? So and remember it says not the trouser size. And this is a bit about Marga. Some people who are as skinny as a rake end up getting diabetes. And you marvel and say, but you can't have diabetes. How come you have diabetes and you're so skinny? It is called TOFI. Thin on the outside, fat on the inside. So the fat is circulating around the liver and the pancreas, although you're as skinny as ever. Are you with me? Right, okay. So, moving swiftly on. Oops, what am I doing? So the symptoms, going to the toilet a lot, so peeing quite often, 3, 4, 5 times. Extreme thirst, so you're constantly drinking a lot of water. Some people get thrush and genital itching in their private parts. Slow healing of cuts and wounds, and I'm going to talk about that now. 5 years ago, I used to go up to a particular gym, and this guy didn't see him for a while, and then I went to 6 Ways Aston, and the chap said to me, oh, you're the diabetes man, because these, I have a whole heap of these. 30,000 feet in the air, in the aeroplane, on the New Style train coming down, New Street train coming down here, on the bus, people say, excuse me, you're diabetes man? I go to the football matches, the team, I say, well, yeah, and by the way, but here's my card, take my card, please. That is how me get engagements. If I'm wearing neutral colors like you are, nobody would know who I am. So I'm walking advertising, I have the hoodies as well, and a whole range of colors, and it's the same. That's how I get my engagements, okay? So, this guy stopped me and said, I think you know my brother. I said, do I? He says, yes. Go visit him in Dudley Road Hospital. This is a true story. I wouldn't tell a lie in the Church of God, okay? And I went, and the guy in the hospital, this is a guy who was muscular and would walk around with T-shirt and shorts and so on. And there he was, and he pulled off the bed sheet. The story is, as night follows day, he was at his home with his son, and a glass fell in the kitchen floor, and he scraped it all up. However, a splinter was left. A splinter was left. And the splinter, and this is why we have to, as the people with diabetes, have to go once a year and get our feet checked. The splinter was left in there, and he wasn't feeling it. No nerves, no nerve damage feeling. And it got worse and got worse. Well, in the big toe, sorry. And a friend visited him and said, God, that smelled like proper tembe, proper thinking toe. But you got to do something about it. So he reluctantly finally went to the doctor, and the doctor took one look at him and said, no, you have to go down to Dudley Road Hospital. Ladies and gentlemen, they chopped off either septicemia or what's his name had set in, so they had to chop off the first toe. Then it had spread to the other 4 toes, and they had to top off those toes as well. Sadly, it had gone too late, and it had spread up to here, so they had to chop his foot off right below here, okay? This is a true story. And because of that, they had to fit him a prosthetic limb. And you know what set in? Depression, mental health. This man refused to, his curtains were always, no want nobody to see him, always covered like that. No, going from this macho manly self to so on. So I said to people, you need to have good foot care. And if it's an elderly person and they're not able to wash their feet properly, dry their feet. Do not put any lotion between the toes. May teach my granny if you suck eggs in this sense. Talcum powder or nothing at all. And then also what you need to do, in Jamaica, when the dry skin here, we go down a riverside and you use a stone, maybe you buy humus, go in a Marks and Spencer's and Holland and Barrett, and buy humus stone for rub down. Even the Queen, God bless her, she gone now, but she would have to get somebody to rub her. We all build up the skin, the dry skin here, and you lotion your feet properly, but not between the toes. And also, don't walk around, or when you're going to the Caribbean, the sunny beaches in the Caribbean, Africa and India and so on. I beg you, please do not walk around barefoot, even at home, because even at home you might think, oh, it's the carpet. Your grandchild might have dropped a needle or a pin or a marker there, and you're not noticing it's there, and you're walking around barefoot, and then suddenly it's gone into your foot, and you're not feeling it, and it's festering, and the gangrene or septicemia, that's the word I was looking for, sets in, and by the time you realize it is too late. So I'm begging you, do not walk around barefoot, even in the comfort of your home. Wear slippers or so on. Now, during the summer, my daughter introduced me to these. God bless her, she's very good. They're called Birkenstock. They're frightfully expensive, but when you get them in the summer sale, they're much cheaper. And they fit the contours of your feet. Ladies and gentlemen, your feet need to breathe. When I go to the elderly people's homes and the residential homes, and they have on socks, and they have on stockings, and they have on trainers, I said, no, not in your living room, not in this space. Take those off and allow your feet to breathe. That's important. And as I say, if you're cutting the toenails for an elderly person, cut them in such a way that they don't end up getting ingrown toenail and so on. But foot care is very important, which is why so many people lose their feet because they're not taking care of them. I go once a year and the nurse says, look away. And she does that. And I said, but you haven't touched me. She says, ah. And then she touches all these bits with this tongue that she has. She has this thing. And she says, diabetes or no diabetes, yours are some of the best feet I've ever seen in my nursing career. And I said, well, I take care of them. That's the whole idea. And that's what I'm saying to you as well. Without your feet, how are you going to get around? Huh? So I'm keeping it real. I have to. Blurred vision. I spoke about blurred vision earlier. I'm not going to go back to it. Please, if you notice that your sight is going or you're not seeing the print properly or so on, go to the optician and get it checked. We're on the National Health Service. It's free here. In Jamaica, I know, and America, you pay an arm and a leg to go see one doctor and so on. Want it, can't get it, no want it. Extreme tiredness, which I spoke about earlier. Weight loss. This sudden rapid weight loss. It might be something else that you have. It might be cancer or something else. But as I said, the 4 T's, tired, toilet, thirsty, thinner, along with blurred vision and slow healing, of course. Then at the bottom, all together, I want you to read this with a loud voice. Go on. Now, may I go put on my teaching hat here. That was read very, very weak and wishy-washy and fenke. Can we all, in gusto and feeling, read it and say it in loud that we mean it, please? Again. Make that sink in. Make that sink in. Because if you don't have your regular checkups, and by the horse has bolted and gone through the gate, and it's too late, and the doctor says, I'm afraid I'm going to have to put you on metformin or insulin. I'm begging you, go and get your health checkups once a year. You might think you're right as rain, but it's only the blood test which will determine. And get your men folk in particular, who are, McGonagall would have said, they stick working on their ears. Are their ears hard? Go and get them. And sometimes people come up to me afterwards and say, Tony, you think I know me, I tell my husband, but he sit down there and I listen to you, and he might take everything he know, and he is deciding him to make the changes. So I'm about motivating people, and hopefully I'm doing that today. Am I? Okay, thank you. So, eye disease, which I spoke about at the back of the eye. Heart disease, which is why they get heart attacks. Kidney disease, which is why so many people have to go on the dialysis and so on. And of course, nerve disease, the feet, the toes and the feet. Those are the 3 things. So it's not diabetes itself that is the issue. It's the complications from it. And trust me, I've seen them. During the 70th anniversary of the NHS, they had me on BBC television, because I can talk for Britain. BBC television at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital in Birmingham. And this woman interviewed me in this 2-hour special. And her first question to me was, so, Mr. Kelly, Tony, you have type 2 diabetes. You're a diabetes sufferer. I said, excuse me? I am living with this medical condition. I am managing and controlling it. Please don't call me a diabetes sufferer. There are diabetes sufferers out there, but Tony Kelly isn't one of them. So she apologized profusely and said, oh, I get your drift, okay? Before I moved, I skipped one by mistake. Sorry, let me just go back. This is important. Even if you can't get to go to your GP surgery, because sometimes they close or the long waiting list on you can't get the blood, go to the Diabetes UK website and use the Diabetes Know Your Risk tool. It's a very, very good tool. Take a camera, take a picture of it, know your risk. You put in your age, your height. It tells you your age, your height, your weight, your gender, your ethnicity. It can actually work out based on all of the information you put into it, whether you are no risk, NO risk, no risk, low risk, LOW risk, medium risk, or high risk. And if it's medium or high, it signposts you, because you put in your postcode, to the nearest place where you can go to the National Diabetes Prevention Program, which is about a 9-month program with other people in a similar position. These are people who are pre-diabetic, or borderline. That's what that is for. I beg you. So eating a healthy, balanced diet, being more active regularly, and stop smoking. This is the point where I do the activity. And some people call me, I'll tell you at the end what they call me. First of all, let me start with this one. When I came here in 1979, the only channels were BBC One, BBC Two, ITV. Channel 4 wasn't even around then. Now you have 100 and odd channels, and when I visit people's homes, they have the remote control. Beep, 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 beep. You know what you do for me? Hide the remote control, and I mean that, or put dead batteries in it, or take out the batteries. And if you, within an hour, have to get up from your seat and go up to the television, change the channel, the volume, or switch it on or off, you have done some movement. You have done some movement. I'm begging you, please do this. You cannot be sitting down there 14, 15 hours just like that. That's the height of laziness. So that's the first one. The other one, some of you might hear of Alexia and Siri. Alexia, close the curtain. Alexia, turn on the radio. Alexia, do this. Alexia, do that. Want to grow up with Alexia and Siri? These are new modern inventions that they brought in which are making us lazy. Please stop using Alexia and Siri. And if you have to go turn on the radio or close the curtains, you physically go like how we used to do back in the day and close the curtain or turn on the radio. Are you with me? You understanding me? So abandon Alexia and Siri. That's the next one. The next one I want you to do is this. I came prepared with 2 big bottles, but somebody had been so tidy, then take the 2 big bottles and dash them away. They were right next to you here. But you can start off with this girth and move up. You're not going to be Arnold Schwarzenegger, the big muscle builder. But these are muscles that you have never used for a long, long time. And you're going to start with this, with water in them. Must be plastic bottles, so when they drop, and I do it in the nursing homes, the elderly homes, when it drops, it don't break. And all you're doing is this. Literally doing that. And then you do it to music. One love, or whatever you like singing to, Trinidadian soca or what have you. And then you take it up there. And you don't want up here to be so nice and trim and toned, and down here some maga and look bad like what? So you're going to do the feet as well. Bring the feet up if you're able to. That is physical activity you're doing. And you increase the weight. Some people like to use dumbbells, big dumbbells, but that's something that you can do. Another thing you do, you park the grandmother or the grandfather in front of the TV and then sit down there for 17, 18 hours. Get into a habit. One of you holding this side, and one of you holding the elderly person that side. And you say, come on, grandma, come, granddad, come, uncle, come, dad. It might take, be patient with them. Be patient with them, because I know something that they're used to doing. And you help them sit down again, and you get them up. The blood is circulating, the heart is pumping. This is movement they're doing. You need to start doing that. And then when I come back and see you, because he's inviting me back again, you say, Mr. Kelly, my grandmother can do 10 of these now, non-stop, up and down, because it becomes a force of habit, and it's done on a regular basis. I see people going on holiday to America and the Caribbean and sitting in an aeroplane for 13, 14 hours. Are you crazy? Deep vein thrombosis sets in. You have to wiggle the feet. You have to wear surgical stockings if you can. Wiggle the feet, get up in your seat and walk up and down the aisle. These are just practical tips that I'm giving to you that you need to be doing. You go to the supermarket, everybody choose to park their car right outside the entrance. You know what you do for me? Park it way down yonder and walk up to the front of the supermarket. You have done some physical activity. I never use the word exercise. I used to use it in the earlier days, and a woman in a wheelchair said to me, Mr. Kelly, look at me in my wheelchair. You expect me to do exercise? Exercise conjures up images. You want the person to go to a gym. Come on. To go to a gym. That's not what I'm about. I am wanting you to do in the comfort of your home, line dancing or yoga or Pilates, whatever you want to do. So I use the word physical activity, and in Jamaica they call it Jamaica movement. I want people to move more. So another one, which is why I come on to it, some people say, but you're Mr. Motivator the second. You remember Mr. Motivator with the different color socks you see there on morning TV, Derek Evans? And they say, but you're just like him. I say, well, I'm on a mission to get people to lose the weight and get yourself more trim and more fit. The bus stop. When you're going home today, those who take the bus, it's still bright and the dark, so you can't use that as an excuse. Instead of coming off at your bus stop, you come off at the stop before. These are all practical tips which I think some of you know anyway. Or you come up at the stop after. You're not going to walk as if you're going behind a casket at a funeral. You're going to walk briskly, 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 so that the heart muscles are pumping the blood around the system. And that is physical activity you are doing. Okay? There's a lot more I could do with you, but time won't allow. Those are just some that I would want to leave with you. There's several other on YouTube and on the internet and so on, which you can do with your children. Have competition with your children. Get the kids off the PlayStation and the Game Boy and tell them to go to the park, go play football and play cricket. When I was growing up in Jamaica, we go back bunker down the hill and slippery and climb mango tree and go catch janga and so on. And all the school run, everybody going in car to school and so on. Kids are not even walking to school. Some of them, my neighbor where we live, you see him come out and him start the car tea. Him just going across the road, you know, honestly, just to get a bottle of milk and him paper. And him still go in him car and do that. Hands up. Anybody who in here born in a motor car, raise your hand, please. Exactly. During this 10.5 years, 2 people once put up their hand. And I said, really? And they said they were born in an ambulance on the way to the hospital. I said, well, I'll forgive you. Now, I'm saying to you loud and clear, we were not born in motor cars. Your feet, these 2 feet, were made for walking. Walk, walk, and walk. Even those who have some mobility issues, there's nothing wrong in you still trying to walk. When I go into the city center in Birmingham, and they say, what floor you want? I said, the 17th floor. They say, how are you going to get up there? Are you crazy? Are you Superman? I say, you watch. The lift stop at the 2nd, the 3rd, the 5th, the 9th, the 12th. By this time, we don't walk up the stairs and reach up to the 17th floor. Sit down, could have a cup of coffee, and waiting on the lift to open. And then when it opened, they say, well, how come you reach up here so quickly? When we did just start this journey, by the time we reach the 3rd floor, me out of breath, and the 5th floor, and so on. But by constantly doing it, the heart is used to it being done, the muscles as well. So that's another thing to do. If you see me anywhere in this country in a lift, an elevator, an escalator, or travelator, the moving, you have permission to slap me. I don't use them. I do not use. When I go into supermarket, the bigger supermarkets, and they have the travelator, and 9 out of every 10 people plunk themselves on the travelator to go travel from here just up to there. Ask yourself the question, do you have a travelator at your yard? So what the dickens you're going into a supermarket, go use the travelator for? Use your feet. The stairs is right next to you. That's what I'm asking you to do more movement. This sedentary couch potato lifestyle is not helping any of us at all. Are you with me? Right. So don't just say, you're going to start putting it into practice. The last thing I'm going to do about tip is a walking club. These 4 people have formed a walking club. This gentleman gets ready and calls on his neighbor 5 streets away or whatever. She start complaining about, Lord, it's too cold out there. My head hurt me, and this, that, and the other. But he's very assertive. So he says, listen, we've got 2 more people to pick up on this walk. You better go. But she never even get dressed to go walking. And then she started about, oh, well, me have to put on my makeup, and me have to put on my wig, and me have to do this. And he said, okay, me will wait. And he waits. Then we got to that one, and she says, what took you so long? You think I know me that I wait pound if you come? And we tell her the story about this one. Then we got to the final person. It can be 4, it can be 6. And she said, oh, my foot hurt me, I think me can go today. And you just try and convince her. This is you motivating her. The fresh air will do you the world of good. May I beg you, no walk on flat surfaces. You will get no benefit from walking on flat surfaces. Find hills and gradients and gullies. So you're going, and some will be slower walkers than others. So you go and you wait at a certain point for them, and the others come and you join. You talk about Brexit, you talk about the Queen, you talk about President number 45, you talk about the church, you talk about your pastor, you talk about your neighbors, and your children and grandchildren. By the time you've done all of that discussion with the people you're with, in fellowship with, you walk 3 miles up a hill. Do that twice a week. You see the weight start. If you try and do it on your own, trust me, after a week, you're going to give up. Now, because I'm so motivated, these are things that I do every week, and this is for years and years. I go to a Pilates class. I go to a badminton class. I go to a yoga class. I go to an aquarobics class where I just, in the water come up to here, and you're doing your force with the music against you. Aquarobics, one of the best forms of exercise. 3 years ago, they started lockdown. I read an article which said Linford Christie, I don't need to tell you who Linford Christie is, has learned to swim at his age. And I thought, well, if it's good enough for Linford Christie, it's good enough for Tony Kelly. So my grandmother, me was her favorite grandchild. She said, no, you now go a river, you now go a beach, you now go, because you go drown. So I have never learned to swim in Jamaica. And I thought, you know what? I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't gamble. I'm going to learn to swim. Just 4 or 5 weeks ago, I was moved from the beginner's class to the intermediary class. So, this myth that black people can't swim, no, try that upon me. I am not accepting that. We need to have the determination and the know-how and so on and say, okay, I'm going to put my head to the wheel and try and do this. So I am a swimmer now. I'm proud to say swimming lengths and what have you. And she said, but you're really good, you know. It's just a bit too late for the Commonwealth Games. I say, all right, 4 years' time, we go represent Britain or Jamaica or something. But no, seriously, take up a sport. It can be Pilates, yoga, it can be line dancing, fast-paced walking, cricket. Take up a sport with friends that you have and go and do it. You need to do that more than, and even when the weather cold, because I did put on a whole heap of weight. I used to run track and field in Jamaica for high school and college and youth club in the same stadium in Kingston. And when I come here, it cold out there, we put on the weight. At one stage, I was 14 stone. And when we go back to Jamaica, they say, Jesus, what a little this Kamaga boy, what a weighing fat now. But I've lost all of that because I'm now back into a regular routine of doing physical activity. It will, mentally, it will be good for you. Physically, it will be good for you. And the whole issue of spirituality, we're talking about our Bible and our Christianity and our church and so on. We need to practice what we're preaching as well. That's part of it as well. You can't be there thinking, one woman did tell me, say, oh, well, if me get diabetes, me will ask God for a miracle. And me just turn around to her straight away. Me said, that is one miracle me would tell the God, the Lord, not forgive you. Because you should not get it in the first way. Prevention is better than? Thank you, okay? So, moving swiftly on, coming to an end, HbA1c, I can't do HbA1c, which a lot of you might be able to do. I have something called the sickle cell trait. It doesn't cause me any problems at all. Not the sickle cell anemia, just the trait. And the sickle cell is like a crescent shape or like a scythe, what you used to cut. So, some people have sickle cell crisis. And they have to, because the blood is not shaped like a corpuscle or not round like an LP or CD, ever so often they're going to crisis and have to end up with. Well, I have the trait. If my wife had the trait, there is a possibility that our daughter would have been born with full-blown sickle cell. So when I go, the first 2 years when I went in the 18 years I've had diabetes to have my bloods done, they sent off and put on it HbA1c because I was none the wiser. And then they called me back and said, Mr. Kelly, it didn't work. It's because more black people have the sickle cell trait, or thalassemia is another one. So you cannot put on the label HbA1c. It will not work. HbA1c gives you a reading, a blood reading, what you've ate or drank for the last 3 months. That's fact. If you have the sickle cell trait like me, fructosamine test is what you're supposed to have. And some of the nurses, when I got to my surgery, First time them I hear it, me have to educate them. I say, fructose in test can only tell you what I've ate or drank for 2 weeks. Only 2 weeks. So sometimes me laugh at my wife and say, you know, I me fancy one hard dough bread, but me go have that 4 weeks before me test you in 2 weeks time. But jokingly, hard dough bread come into our house Easter, Christmas, and Independence. 3 times a year. And people say, you real? Me say, me used to love hard dough bread gone to bed. But no, because I have to be disciplined and in control, I don't eat it that often. Blood pressure monitor. 18 months ago, I went down, and she said, oh, but your blood pressure is gone up. It's gone up. And she was thinking of putting me on tablets. And I said, no, you don't. I don't do tablets. So she put me on a blood pressure monitor for 24/7. Because when I go into a doctor's surgery or hospital, if a doctor walked in here with a stethoscope around his or her neck, I have something called white coat syndrome. White coat syndrome. And that may happen because when I was in Jamaica, I had 1 or 2 teeth taken out, and they never put enough of the anesthetic in it, the local anesthetic, and it pained me. So anytime I see any need, Lord doctor. So to cut a long story short, she put this on me, and then I went back, and she said, oh, but everything's fine. I said, well, what did Dickens you was wanting to go put me on medication for? No. And you need to be assertive. Do not go down the red medication route first time. Ask the doctor, enable and empower the patient to make the lifestyle changes. So it's about social prescribing. You'll hear it a lot now, the word social prescribing. Going to your GP and on their budget, say, there's something called social prescribing, an allotment or gym classes or dance classes or Pilates or yoga. And I forgot to tell you, apart from the things that I do, I forgot to mention Zumba. I go to a Zumba class. And sometimes I'm the one proper Jamaican dege man in a Zumba class with 23, 24 women. And all I say is, well, I am the rose amongst you thorns. But I am there in jest and in joke for a reason. Because I'm not going down the diabetes of the heart attack and the stroke and the blindness and all of that entails. Are you with me? Yes. Right. Okay? Pernicious anemia. About 4 or 5 years ago, I felt very tired. Now, normally I wouldn't go see doctor, but now, of course, I go to the doctor. And the doctor took blood, and then they called me back for 3 days on the chop. I have a good relationship with my GP surgery. Come, Mr. Kelly, come, you have to come down and see a doctor. I said, what for? You have pernicious anemia. First time I hear the words. What is that? Lacking in vitamin B12. And the older you get, you will be lacking in vitamin B12, which comes from animals in terms of meat products. So I went, she said to me, the nurse said to me, for the rest of your life, this is a true story, and some of you in here might be on it, you will have to have a B12 injection in your bottom every 3 months to bring your because of type 2 diabetes. I said, oh no. I went home and I did my research and went to the Pernicious Anemia Society, and there are a lot of doctors in my family and nurses still. That Floridix at Holland & Barrett or Tesco or Sainsbury's. My wife prefers Metatone tonic. Contains liquid iron and vitamin B2, B6, B12, no preservatives, no coloring, no lactose. Boots, that is what I did, along with one a day B12 tablet from Holland & Barrett. That for the last 5 years. And they said, Mr. Kelly, your B12 has shut up. I may just look at her and say, well, what did Dickens you always want to juke me in my bottom every 3 months for the rest of my life for? Come on, get real. But they know I'm joking. I don't mean it in all seriousness. But you need to open your mouth and ask your doctor's question. What are they giving you this tablet for? And then another one to counteract, and then that one. And then you end up looking like a medicine chest rattling around. Come on, go and get your reviews done. And don't just think putting God. I'm not saying all doctors are like this. But some people put doctors way up here upon a pedestal, and they are the be-all and end-all. I'm afraid in my book, some are and some are not. So you need to be mindful and take a second person with you. You won't be able to take me because me is only one person. And me can't be cloned if you go everywhere we don't know. Kidney stones, very quickly, I had once. And it was because my mother said to me, Well, you're a grown man. Why are you drinking full-fat cream milk? Me used to love the full-fat cream milk. The more fat on top of it. She said, come on. Milk, cow's milk, is for the formation of teeth and bones in children and babies. You should have plant-based milk. So these are the milks I have. Vary them. Rice milk, almond milk, coconut milk, cashew milk, and wheat milk. I choose not to have soya milk because apparently the soya, a lot of pesticides go on the soya. So they have to spray chemicals to get rid of the pesticides. And as far as I'm concerned, that might go down into the food chain and can be cancerous. So rice milk, almond milk, cashew milk, coconut milk. Good old coconut milk that we grew up on in Jamaica. Those are the milks that I have instead of an oat milk. Oops, sorry. Keep forgetting. So eat a healthy, balanced diet. Now look at those people in terms of career or profession who get diabetes more than anybody else. Taxi drivers, bus drivers, van drivers, tube and lorry drivers. What are they doing most of the day? Sitting down. Sitting on their posterior for most of the day, and by the time they get home, they go in front of the television, and they fall asleep on the television watching them, and then they go up to bed. They have done no physical activity. So that is what I'm saying to you. Those are the professions or careers that get diabetes the most. So take your medication if you've been prescribed it. I mentioned social prescribing, which is a buzzword now, and you get it from the GP's budget, not from your budget. Most GP surgeries now have a social prescriber, and you go in and you see them and say, can I see the social prescriber? I'd like to go to a course of allotments, or I'd like to go to line dancing, or Zumba, or Pilates, or what have you. It is out of their budget. That is the emphasis I'm trying to get across to you, to get you to do some things to enable and empower you to make the lifestyle changes. Are you with me? Right, okay. Control your glucose. This I always show, I beg your pardon before I go to that last slide. Some people like to say, well, I'm going to have a smoothie. And smoothie used to be the in thing, whether it be the fruit smoothie or the vegetable smoothie. Let me tell you something about smoothies which you need to take on board. Seriously. Smoothies, you've done your own smoothie. The mouth is formed into a bolus. When you eat, you masticate the food, bolus or ball, and the enzymes do whatever in the stomach, and the food go down here. With a smoothie, in here, nothing happening here, sir, down here, sir, and either out here or out there. Smoothies are no good for you. Tell me say that. Smoothies are no good for you. This is a training that they gave to me. No. I'd rather you eat the apple, or the broccoli, or the cucumber, or the satsuma, or the whatever, the usual way. The body will get the chance to send it and dissipate it wherever it needs to go. Are you with me on that? Right, okay. Take a picture of this. The Diabetes UK website, voluntary. Go there. There's a phone line open Monday to Friday. They also can get Arabic, Punjabi, Urdu, Gujarati speakers. When I do those communities, I say don't give up and think, well, it's only English people speaking. They can get the interpreter in your language to come back to you, not necessarily that moment, and hear what the issues are for you. It's a very good helpline, as are the other two. The top one is the one I would use the most, if any. Okay? Now, before I go to the ask you some questions, can we put on the quiz, please? Whether the quiz or the cultural myths, either one, it doesn't matter. Are they hearing me? Good, thank you. I've overrun a bit, but it doesn't matter if you're prepared to stay and watch the next two set of slides, and then I'm finished with any questions. Food and diabetes quiz. Thank you. Here we go. Hands up, those who think if you have diabetes, you must follow a special diet. Put your hand up, please. And keep it up. That's fine. I've got people I can pick on. Could you tell us why, if I have diabetes, I must follow a special diet? Speak loudly so everybody hears.
Because you can't eat anything and everything that you want to.
Okay. You also had your hand up. Why?
I should be able to
Listen.
reduce my carbohydrate
Right. The ones who did not put up their hands, you are all correct. There is no need to follow a special diet. When I was growing up in Whitehall, St. Thomas, Jamaica, back in the 60s, 70s, they used to put on a completely different pot to us, the young people who didn't have the condition, okay? We all must eat a healthy, well-balanced diet. There's no need for no special diet, okay? Sorry? At the end. Keep it to the end. I'm sorry, I'll quickly go through this. Do people with diabetes need to stop eating rice? Hands up if you think, I got diabetes, I must stop eating rice. I want the hands up if you agree with that. No takers? There's one at the back. Sir, stand up and tell the group why people, you might be right, you know. Go on, let's hear what you've got to say. It gives us? Wrong, so we stop eating it. So, sir, you're the only one who put your hand up. I'm going to ask you then, are you telling me the 2 billion people who live in China, with the paddy fields of China, must give up eating rice? I don't think so. You must eat rice, but moderation in all things. And listen now, listen. All of you put your hand out like that for me. Everybody put your hand out there and look at your hand. Not like that, I want it like that. I want one hand like that. Look at your hand now. The portion of rice that you eat must fit comfortably in the palm of your hand. Me now took the uncooked rice now. Me talking the cooked rice. Because some people say, Mr. Kelly, you're talking before it cook. Because if you put that uncooked in there, by the time you put it in the pot, it'll go swell. So sometimes they may joke with me, but me ready for them. Also, let me see how good you are. There are, remember, and this is very important, listen to this very carefully. All carbohydrates break down into your body into glucose or sugar. All starchy food. So some people might think, oh, it's only the bun and the cheese and the ice cream and the syrup, which I must give up. Let me tell you, the yam, the rice, the hard-dough bread, the festival, the donut, the bakes, or the Johnny cake, they break down into your body into glucose or sugar. You need to cut down and go for more fresh fruit and... Thank you, okay? Now, there are 3 types of rice that Diabetes UK keeps stressing we are to eat more than any others. Name me them. Me not give you nothing for brown rice. Basmati rice? Are you a nurse? Yeah? Basmati, brown rice, and basmati can be either brown or white. There's one more. Let me see if anybody's going to get that. I think I heard it. Huh? No? Sorry? No? I'm not hearing it. I'm going to tell you. Wild rice. Somebody said it over there? Huh? Pass it over to them, please. Wild rice. That's what Diabetes UK say. Go for brown rice, basmati rice, whether white or brown, or wild rice, W-I-L-D, not white rice. Okay? Those are the 3. I'm not saying you can't eat the others, but as with everything, in small portions, moderation. Are you getting the message? Right. Right. Now, me come from Jamaica, and then me grow up. Me love mango to bed. Diabetes, me must stop eat sweet fruit like mango and banana? Yes or no? Those who say yes, put your hand up, please. No takers? Remember, it's sweet, you know. You're all right. Moderation. So, come mango season, when the big box of Julie mango come down at the market in a bull ring there and go on, I'm going to buy my doctor actually says to me, I'm giving you permission to have 5 mangoes at a time. Yes. Remember, I do Pilates, yoga, acrobics, swimming, badminton. I am constantly burning up the calories. Mangoes is putting on weight. Trust me. It's putting, but she said, you walk everywhere, you park your car, and you walk here, there, and you're doing your badminton, your Pilates, and your yoga, and your swimming. She said, you will never, ever be in a situation where mangoes will be your downfall. If you are not doing that, and thinking, oh, mangoes is a nice fruit, and I'm going to eat, and this, that, and the other, I have 6, 7, 8 at a time, you're storing up trouble for yourself. Okay? All right, so be mindful. The darker the banana skin is, the sweeter the ripe banana will be. So go for the ripe banana when it is less dark. Okay? That's important to note as well. And the bananas over here now, they're long so. When we're growing up in Jamaica, banana was finger. And now all of a sudden, they cultivate them long so. If you get them long so, chop it in two. I have half today, I have half another day. Are you with me? Right. Now, we shouldn't even ask this. Should we eat more vegetables, everybody? All say? Yes. Absolutely. Red tomato, red pepper, red onion, red cabbage. And I'll say at this point, although it's not a vegetable, men need to cut down on their red meat. Men need to cut down on their red meat. It is the main cause of prostate cancer in us as black men. Are you hearing that loud and clear? And you women who have men in your lives, you need to cut down on the red meat. So me love me oxtail, and me love me curry goat, and me love me this and me that, but I have them once in a blue moon, not on a regular basis. My doctors have already told, from me turn 50, my mother said to me, you go every year and get your PSA checked, whether your waterworks is fine or not, whether you're having stoppage of water or not. Go and get your PSA checked. It is important among men. And more black men, the prostate cancer, if caught early, is one of the easiest cancers to cure of all the cancers known in the body. Okay? So the more reds you have, red grapes, the better for you. There's something about things that are red, but please cut down on your red meat. The people with diabetes need to avoid dal and beans. Dal and beans. What's dal and beans? Lentils. Asian people like a lot of lentils, and I'm saying to you, the more lentils you have, the more pulses, lentils you have in your diet, the better. The more fiber for you going down that stomach. The only bean I'm going to say you should shy away from is what bean? No? No? Who said baked beans? Baked beans is packed with sugar and salt, unless you go for the unsalted or reduced sugar and salt. So when your niece or nephew or your grandchildren, Mom, Dad, can I have some baked? And so Tony Kelly said no. You have to find something else to give them. Or give them. It becomes an acquired taste. It really tastes funny to start with. But eventually you get the hang of it. But every other bean under the sun is good for your stomach. It's very, very good for you. Try all the beans that are out there. And we're spoiled for beans in Britain. Trust me. Huh? Red beans, kidney beans, broad beans, butter beans, they're all good for you. Do we need to cut down on fatty food like the Asians use ghee? We use a lot of coconut oil, palm oil, but do we need to cut down on those? Yes. Absolutely. In our house, we boil, we bake, we grill, we steam, and we roast. I'll repeat. We boil, we bake, we grill, we steam, and we roast. We do not do fry-ups in the Kelly household. Even the Johnny cake or fried dumpling or bakes, as some people call it, we started off in a little oil. And guess where we transfer it to? You know, you're talking my language. Yeah. We have some cooks in here. Please, I'm asking you, cut down on the amount of oil that you're using that goes into your body. It ain't good for you, okay? God, we're going to have to make some lifestyle changes, those who haven't yet. Sugar. We blame Mr. Cadbury. And have you been up to Selly at the Cadbury place where they make the chocolate them? That is no good for you. No good at all. Go into the store and you will see some dark chocolate which says 70 to 80 to 90% cocoa. It is very bitter in taste, but trust me, it is good for you. And you will eat 6 of that in one go. It's addictive. You see the dark chocolate one? It takes you 6 weeks to eat the one bar. because it is so bitter. Even me say, Lord Jesus, but me force myself and me eat a chunk, and then me put it down for 3 days, and me go back and me eat another chunk, and it take me all 2-3 weeks before me finish one bar. But me know me eating good food, because it's mostly cocoa, okay? Dark chocolate, it's in most supermarkets. Little, Aldi, Sainsbury's, Marks and Spencer, you name it, they have it. That, I'm quickly going to go on. If you see that on the shelves, go find the manager and say, take it off the shelf. There is no need for anybody to have diabetic jam or diabetic chocolate. Have normal chocolate in small portion sizes, small ranges. That is more expensive. And as for the chocolate, the diabetic chocolate, it run your belly. It give you belly ache. Trust me, go on the toilet every minute. So don't go there, okay? Diabetic jam, you need to avoid it. Go for quote-unquote normal jam. That, you notice what it said at the top? No added sugar. That's a marketing ploy because they have put sucrose or you know, the sweeteners in there so they can get around it. We have not added any sugar to it, but they have. It's the sucrose or the sweeteners. And you think, oh my God, no sugar in this. This is suitable for my diabetes. Don't let the manufacturers fool you. Are you getting the message? Yes. Right, okay? So just go, and that is more expensive anyway and tastes bad. All say, yes. All say, yes. Cut down as black people. Salt is a major cause of why we have hypertension, stroke, high blood pressure. May I beg you, please cut down. My wife's husband is a chef. And he says, we didn't know that. When you go to some of these places, my wife's, what did I just say? Sorry, no, my daughter's husband. Oh, I'm losing the plot here. Cut that out. No, make that right. Cut that out. My daughter's husband is a chef. And he says, when you go to a restaurant, they deliberately salt the food. Why? Who said drink over here? To make you drink more. They deliberately salt the food, put more salt than is necessary in there. And you think, oh my God, my pellet, my tongue tastes. And you're asking for this. So your drink bill becomes more than your food bill. Get wise to that. I see people go stand up by the bar and they put out the pistachio nuts and the salted peanuts and the cashew nuts and so. And of course, the whole range of drinks out there. And by the time the brain kick in and the people have ordered this, that, and the other, that's a ploy you need to be aware of. Now, in terms of salt, the sea is polluted as far as I'm concerned. So we don't do sea salt. We don't do table salt because table salt is packed with minerals and chemicals, okay? In most supermarkets, there is a pink salt from the Himalayas, natural salt from the highest mountain in the world, the Himalayas. You are to start using the salt from the Himalayas. It's pink in color. It is far better for you than sea salt and for this salt which is full of chemicals and preservatives. And as a matter of fact, we go for, listen to what we go for. Basil, sage, garlic, onion. What are these? Dill. Come on, what are these? Herbs and spices. And not the text one that is already, when you put your finger in it and taste it, it's salt like what? No. Or the oxo, or so on, or the, what's that one with the red top on it? Maggi, the Maggi, that's right. No. Basil, dill, onion, garlic, pimento. Those are the things, natural herbs and spices. We use those to season our meats, okay? So if you don't, you need to start doing that. I'm sure a lot of you do. What's Corella? What's it? You call it Corella? Corella, whatever. What is it? It is a bitter melon or bitter gourd used particularly in the Asian family. They use it in their meat dishes, and they use it to flavor it, and it gives it a nice flavor. Some people say, oh my God, that's the best thing since sliced bread. But it is very bitter. We don't tend to use it in the African Caribbean community as such. But the Asian people do use it, so I have to tell them a bit about that. Should we have 3 meals a day? I have 3 meals a day. Some people choose to have intermittent fasting and don't have breakfast, and then their first meal is sort of lunchtime. I take the view, this is me personally, each to their own. So don't follow my advice, but each to their own. My body needs nutrients. I've ate at 6. We tend to eat 6:30, so that we don't go to bed on a full stomach. And are you expecting me, having ate at 6:30, 7 o'clock, to then go the next day until 1 o'clock to put some nutrients in my body? And I'm type 2 diabetes, so I tend to have something to eat. And I'm saying to you loud and clear, you need to eat something. That's my view. You might choose not to, but at least have yourself a cup of tea or whatever. And earlier on I spoke about putting the water in this. Aim for 2 liters of water every day. I know it ain't easy, but 2 liters of water. Because first of all, none of you should be drinking Pepsi and Coke and the fizzy this and the fizzy that. They are all bad for you. Even the one which say a diet. Please do, and giving the children it to eat. I see my wife, see them going to school in the morning with a can of Coke and a packet of crisps. By the time they reach school, they've had so much sugar inside of them, they're gonna sleep, or they're hyper. Please, what happened to good old cornmeal porridge, oats porridge, banana porridge, haminy corn? What happened to those things? Are those things grow me up? We need to go back to the olden days. But you might not be able to do in the week, say, banana porridge and haminy corn. But you certainly can do oats porridge, because oats, my mother used to tell me, oats is filling and helps to lower your cholesterol. That's a fact. Oats porridge. Okay? I tend not to go for the one which has, they have some ready-made one where you just add water. Then pack with sugar. No, just the normal oat. But 3 meals a day, it's a choice of yours, whether you do or you don't. But it is called breaking the fast. You remove the ing from the breaking, so you have the break. You remove the, you just put the break and the fast together, what you get? That's why it's called breaking the fast. So you make your decision as to what's best for you and stick to it, okay? These are not hard and fast rules or answers I'm giving you. You know, nobody knows your body better than? Right, okay. But I skipped one by mistake. Oily fish. Should we eat more oily fish? The more oily fish you eat, I'll name them. Sardines, pilchards, mackerel, tuna, all the oily fish you can eat. But I'm going to come on to salmon in a bit. But Tony Kelly did not say every week you must go down to the chip and fish shop. That's another oily fish we may talk about, okay? So if for that you're thinking, him say, forget that. That is 3 times a year. 3 times a year you have a special of fish and chip. I'm going to come on to salmon because what it was mentioned there. I was told clearly, salmon, you see the lovely pink salmon where you see in Morrison's and Waitrose and Marks and Spencer's and all of these fancy places? They are farm-fed. They deliberately feed them with pellets to give them that lovely pink flavor and that lovely pink look. It is carcinogenic or cancerous. I am asking you to cut down. I'm not making this up. This is fact. You are to cut down on the pink salmon and go for the red salmon from the wilds of Alaska. That is far better salmon for you. The red salmon, which is spawning and going up the mountains in the Hebrides and Alaska, that salmon is better for you. Whether it be tinned or whether it be fresh, the red salmon is far better for you than the pink salmon. Okay? So that's going to change a lot of diets here now, but still. And then moving swiftly on, Should we avoid alcohol? Are there Muslims in here? The key word is moderation. So, for instance, I know the men are going to agree with me, but this is the truth. Men are allowed 21 units per week. Listen, women are allowed 14. You must have alcohol-free days. So you might have a little bit on a Sunday. Monday, you not touch no alcohol at all. Tuesday, you touch a bit. Wednesday, you spread it out over the week. And never drink. Hang on. Yes, I know, but there's some people visiting here. There's some people visiting here, and some people are listening online who are not Seventh-day Adventists. So I'm having to make sure I cover that. I know Seventh-day Adventists don't drink. Thanks for reminding me. But the point I'm making here is those of you who are listening and do drink, you need to be mindful of your portion sizes. And never drink alcohol on an empty stomach. Never, ever. You must have something inside of you before. Because remember, thankfully, Seventh-day Adventists don't drink. Alcohol is still calorie consumption. You're putting on pounds, believe it or not, those who do drink, whether it be beer, lager, wine, spirit, vodka. Okay, so one needs to be mindful. Coming to the end, I think. That's a no-no. Smoking. I've never smoked in my life, and some of you might have had but managed to give it up. Well done. Those still trying to give it up, please do. Smoking ain't good for nobody, okay? And then the last set of slides is the cultural myths, and then I'm finished. The cultural myths, please. These are just 10 cultural myths that are out there in communities which we need to know about. So if I click, yeah, here they go. In the Asian community, I mentioned earlier, they're going to like the Karela. And some of them put the medication down if they're on medication. But what I'm told by some GPs and some healthcare professionals is the Karela, just like when people are on blood thinning tablets, and they can't have grapefruit or grapefruit juice, the same applies to Karela as well, if they're on certain tablets for diabetes, so they need to be mindful of that. In the African Caribbean community, we tend to use aloe vera a lot, Cinco Bible and tuna. That's what we know from back in the Caribbean, etc. We need to be mindful. Yes, these herbs are out there, but it depends on if you're on other medication. But yes, I like my natural remedies. Now I'm going to ask this question. Is diabetes a touch of sugar? Raise your hand. No, not to say anything. Just raise your hand. Well, thank God for that, because we've been doing this for 10 and a half years. And we go to events where people shoot their hand up. And I say, well, when I beat up my mouth for the last hour and a half. Diabetes is more than a touch of sugar. I said that at the very beginning, didn't I? Yeah. Huh? And I've shown you throughout what I've done today. It is more than a touch of sugar. So I don't expect anybody's hand should have gone up. But then, you notice the brown sugar. White sugar, white flour, white rice. I mean, I have nothing against white people, don't get me wrong. But white sugar, white flour, white rice is not good for you. I would rather you had brown sugar if you were going to have any, or brown bread, or granary bread, or bread with sesame, this, that, and the other, but certainly not the whole heap of white granulated sugar and white flour and so on, bleached flour and so on. The more wholemeal stuff you have, it's the better for you. Are you with me? Okay? Big is beautiful. I'm not going to mention what communities, but there are some communities within the African Caribbean diaspora who you will see the man. He's as mager as a rake, slim as ever, in a little village, and walking next to him is his princess, his duchess, his queen, and she's 6 times his size. And he look bossy and feel, oh my God, I've conquered here. Big is not beautiful. Less is more. They're deliberately in some cultures, and some people said to me, well, Mr. Kelly, that's how it is in our culture. I said, pack the nonsense in. That no culture that you're supposed to big up your woman so you can see more of the bosom and the breasts and the bottom and so on. No. Cut that out. Get them to lose weight. Are you with me? Right. Okay? And them is as skinny as ever? No. Diabetes is an old person's condition. Is that true? No. Not anymore. Children in their teens now are developing diabetes because they're too obese, they're too fat, they have on too much weight, they're not doing any physical activity. So it's not an old person's condition. Might have been back in the 50s, but not so now. Coming to the end. Now look at this. A big belly is a sign of a happy marriage. There are people out, I didn't make these up, Don't think, this is myths and cultural myths and myths that people, the bigger the belly is, the woman is showing, oh, me really feed up my husband nice at home. Let me see how much you are paying attention. What size from the navel string should all women be? 31. Huh? 31. It's not 31. Try again. 31 and what size should all Asian men be? 35. And what size should white men and African Caribbean men be? But remember, I said it also depends on your whole structure. Yes, so you might be 40, bring it down from 40 to 38, etc. Okay? That man, by the way, is about to have triplets. Now, in some communities, I'm not going to mention them, but they say, oh, my Lord, I'm full of all of this sweet stuff and so on. It's not proving how rich and wealthy and affluent. When I go to those communities, I tell them to cut the CRAP out. That, you notice the one dega strawberry? I would rather the lager be packed with strawberries and satsumas and oranges and fruits and so on. And having said that, a slide which went before, which I didn't mention, it was a fish slide. It showed you 2 slices of lemon on it. Every single morning for probably the past 14, 15 years, every morning when I wake up, the first thing that goes into this stomach is a squeezed lemon in warm water. Not ice cold water, in warm water. And the doctor says to me, you are waking up the stomach and all the enzymes and everything. Keep doing that. Keep doing that. Not everybody can, but even when I go on holiday, I go find where the lemons are, and I squeeze a lemon, and in warm water I have that to wake up my stomach every morning without fail. And I never have stomach problems. So all that wealthy stuff, that's 3 times a year. Christmas or Eid or Ramadan or your birthday or anniversary or so on. Not on a regular basis. Oh, diabetes, it's God's will. The world will of the gods or the Holy Quran or the Bible. People justify that and actually say, God said me I go get it, so it's in the Bible, so me just have to accept it. That is utter nonsense. Cut the nonsense out, okay? Diabetes is a mild condition. Everybody have it. It's no big deal. What's the fuss? You agree with that? Okay, move on quickly then. If you have diabetes, you won't be able to find a husband. You can't have children. That comes out a lot. My stepmother in Canada, before she died, she had type 1. It was difficult for her to conceive, but eventually she did. And I have a half-sister named Julie who lives in Hamilton in Canada. So that's another myth we have to get rid of. Ramadan. If you prick your finger during Ramadan, you have broken the fast, and therefore you shouldn't prick your finger to test your blood glucose levels. That is a myth that is there in some Muslim and Asian communities. We have to dispel it. That's the end. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you. I went on a bit, but that's me. I do go on. But I can come back. Any questions? Yes. No, here. 6:30. I'm on time.
Oh, so you said about no added sugar. There's glucose in it. That's correct?
No added sugar.
Sugar in.
So go for things like bran flakes and Weetabix and shredded wheat. And if at all possible, put in it, I should have mentioned 4 things which are very good for you. Strawberry, raspberry, blackberry, and blueberry. Blueberry. The more blueberry you have in your diet, the better for you. But try and avoid the whole heap of sugar.
Right. Second thing, when it says reduced salts, what's that?
Go for reduced salt. There's some places where you can get the salt not as salty as other places.
But that's okay. To have
Salt, excuse me, reduced salt you can have. But go for the Himalayas salt. That's the best one to go for. Himalaya salt. It's pink in color.
And you have lemon, warm water with lemon every morning.
Every morning for about 15, 16 years.
What about lime?
I don't know much about lime. I can't tell you about lime because I've never tried lime. It's
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Sorry.
I've been asked that in Jamaica as well about lime, but I don't know.
Just two questions, but one might be too much for you to elaborate on now. But what is your view in connection with seedless fruits?
I don't really have a view on seed because I eat melon, I eat yeah. There's this thing where genetic farming is going down the route of having fruits which are with no seeds or so on. There's pros and cons about it. But I eat fruits that are seedless and have seeds. I just do. Okay. Mango have seed. Melon have seed.
Okay.
Grapefruit have seed. Orange have seed. What seedless fruits are you thinking of?
You have watermelon, you have grapes, and quite a few seedless.
Yeah, grapes. We go for grapes with seed in it. It's going to be personal choice and which you think is best for you.
Okay, my second question, which I think you might not be able to address fully here. What constitutes a balanced diet?
Oh, good Lord.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Till Christmas? You want me till Christmas? I'd suggest you sort of go to the Diabetes UK website where they have loads of recipes, loads of stuff talking about carbohydrates and protein and vitamins and vegetables and so on to get the answer to that. It would take me too long to go through the whole of that. All right?
Over here.
But the website is very good.
Hello.
Yeah?
You know, you said that smoothies ain't good for you. Does that also spread for soup?
Does that also wait?
Like, is soup bad for you then?
No, but the soup, we have potato in there, and we'll have yam, and we have okra in there, and so
Well,
on.
like some soup are majority liquid, so I was wondering, would soup be bad for you, or would you have to like have soup with something in there for it to be healthy?
You'd have to have something in there. The tin soup, don't go down the tin soup route, because they're packed with salt anyway.
No, because like imagine like, you have difficulty swallowing and they have to blend up the soup now, yeah, just so you can drink it.
That might be different, but on the whole, soups with various other things in it should be okay, yeah. And I should have mentioned this book, which I urge you to get. It is so good. It's done by Diabetes UK with Dr. Jones, St. John, Chris, and others. It's about a visual guide to African, Arabic, Caribbean, and South Asian foods for diabetes and weight management. So you don't have to have diabetes, but weight management. It tells you the portion sizes, it tells you the calorie count, and so on. It's only $12.99 on Amazon. World Foods, Carbs and Cals, a visual guide. If you get that, after your Holy Bible, this is the next thing that you will want to use going forward. Please. No, you can't have this one. A visual guide to African, Arabic, Caribbean, and South Asian foods for diabetes and weight management. Carbs and Cals, World Foods.
Yes, I would like to know, you spoke about sugar, brown sugar or white sugar. I don't really use those stuff. But what about using honey?
I knew honey would come into it. Yes. It does come up. But all the advice I've been given about honey is that in the same breath, yes, it's natural, but it is still sweet. So you need to be careful about the portion amount of honey you're using because it is still SWEET. But yes, honey is natural. Yeah. Mm.
Okay.
Yes, that is correct. So like mango and all of it. So make sure within your fruit selection, you have some fruits also that have a sour taste or a tangy taste to break it up. And if you're having a lot of sweet fruits, you need to be doing the movement and the physical activity that I talked about earlier. Because if you have keep on having the fruits, you will pile on the pounds, is what I'm saying. Okay? Yeah?
Okay. Yeah, I'd just like to ask, what are your opinions on two things? First, Manuka Honey.
I don't know that.
Sorry?
I don't know about Manuka Honey.
Right,
What's that?
okay.
So I can't answer that, I'm afraid.
Right,
Never
okay,
heard
and-
of it. First
sorry?
I've heard the word.
Right, okay, yeah. And what are your opinions on green tea? Green tea.
Well, I don't do tea or coffee. That's just me personally. Some people swear by green tea. It's going to be about individual choice. So it's not a one glove fits all. So for one person, green tea might be the best thing. For another person, it might be not. So it's something, a lot of these things, although I give a lot of advice, a lot of it is down to you seeing your healthcare professional and going through, well, what are your blood counts? What are your pulse like? What are your heart rate like? And deciding, is this going to be, and then for a while, doing a diary and notice, well, this one give me a headache, and this one make me feel a bit bloated, or this one. That will also assist you in the process. I won't just put a blanket, no, don't have green tea or have green tea.
Right, okay.
It's an individual choice.
Okay, thank you.
Stunned into silence. Well, thank you very much for listening, and I hope to see you again sometime soon. Check down my details if you want. It's across there. And I have to catch a 6:30 train at which station am I going to get, yeah?
Victoria.
Victoria. You can drop me there?
We'll work it out.
Yes. Yes, yes.
Okay.
Black or red.
Okay, everyone. So we'd like to say thank you to Mr. Kelly, who has blessed us. I believe we've all been blessed. And we will try to get him back at the very earliest convenience. He's a very sought-after speaker. From here, he's going off to Jamaica
And
Barbados.
Yeah.
So he's a very busy man. So we'll try to get him back at the earliest convenience. In the meantime, do tell friends, family, and we will do this again, probably early into the new year. So thanks again,
You're
Mr.
welcome.
Kelly, and we'll probably make the details of this book available to everyone. So,
Sorry, I meant to give these out. I don't have many African and Caribbean recipe book. You can go to Diabetes UK as well and get copies of them. They have an Asian one as well. I only have a few.
okay,
I better go this side as well. Sorry, I interrupted you.
that's all right. We can always go online to get some more. We will get more, don't worry. Yes, we will get sufficient, but we'll work that out together.
Yeah.
So on that note, let us conclude in prayer, because without God, none of this would be possible. So let's just close our eyes and thank God. Dear Father in heaven, I want to thank you so much for the gift of information. But information by itself will do us no good unless we act on it. So we ask for the faith and for the impetus to go ahead and implement what we've learned and to tell at least one more. Dear Father, take us safely on our respective ways. I ask that you will take Mr. Kelly back to Birmingham safely, cause his train to go well, and for all of us as we go to our various homes and places of abode. Dear Lord, this has been a blessed day, and even now the sun is still shining, and we'd ask that you allow the sunshine of your love to continue to shine in our souls. So take us away from this assembly and let us go into the untried week full of momentum and bring us back with testimonies so that we may share and encourage and edify each other. In Jesus' name we've prayed. Amen.